Good evening, everyone. Before we introduce the space and today's session, we just want to play a short video for you. Now welcome Paul to begin the session.
Good evening. I think we are running 5 or 7 minutes behind, so I'm not going to take too much time. Delighted, absolutely delighted to have, many friends here, and of course, people who I've known and worked with for years now. So, welcome Manish, welcome Johannes, welcome Harsha, welcome Sonika. So today we are, just to give you a quick roundup on some of our properties. So we have what we call Sarmaya Show and Tell, which are small, intimate sessions, not more than 25 people, where they can request us, or we will show. Either way, if a lot of people request, then we take stuff out from our genres and walk the people through them, and you get to kind of, get up close to the objects, chat about it, discuss about it, and things like that. Then we used to have Sarmaya Talks, which we still do, where somebody, an expert or an author, comes and talks to us about, a particular subject or a book or whatever. And that's less a conversation. It's more about what they want to talk to us about. Of course, Q&A is always there. And then we have Sarmaya Salons. Now, this is something we used to do digitally during COVID, but we have now reintroduced, where the subject tends to be a little more specific, and we have people who have been working with that genre or that subject very intensively come and share with us, and in a smaller setting where we are allowed to have conversations, we are allowed to, go up close to the objects. Often we actually circulate the objects with the, people here. And so today, this is centered around the theme of Ragamala, and the Museum Rietberg, which is in Zurich, did a landmark exhibition, some months back at Rietberg in Zurich on this subject. And of course, this is an all-encompassing subject. There are multiple schools in India, from the Pahadi to the Dakhini, and you have paintings that are done to evoke the mood of a rag. And it's a very special kind of genre of paintings. And there is a more composite, conversation around not just the visual equivalent of the rag, but the sensory equivalent of the rag too, And so you have some of those, smells, sounds, light all over there, and some of the, books that were printed for the exhibition. And I'm going to request Johannes first to give us a quick roundup of what it meant to them to get this whole show up and this whole, thought process, and why the Rietberg has this, subject which is close to their heart. And then, of course, Sonika. And then, we'll have a movie which Harsha has shot and in which Manish has acted. And, of course, it's also about creating the mood and the consequent painting that he did. And then we'll have a quick panel discussion, and we'll throw it open to the house. So, Johannes, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Good evening. I keep myself short. But for those who have not been in Switzerland and Zurich and who do not know the Museum Rietberg, we are a municipal museum founded in 1952. We have our 75 years jubilee next year. And we are the only museum of non-European art in Switzerland. And the Museum Rietberg houses collections of artworks from all over the art, Africa, the Americas, South Asia, Southeast Asia, and has a very large and important collection of Indian paintings. And this goes back to the time when Eberhard Fischer was the curator and director at the Rietberg. And many collaborations with India started around that time in the 70s, 80s, and there was this big Master of Indian Painting exhibition which Riedberg did together with...
I'm just
carry on.
switching. Yeah, you carry on.
Okay.
I'm just changing the presentation.
How can I carry on with you? So, why did we do this exhibition on Ragamala? So first of all, I need to mention that we decided at a certain point that we want to encourage more research on our collections on Indian paintings. And for that, we created the GBF Foundation, which is named after Goswami Beach Fisher, these three friends. And this foundation has the objective to promote and encourage and facilitate research of young emerging scholars from Asia, Europe, to work on our collections. And as the first resident, we invited Sonika to Zurich to work on her research topic, which is a certain series of Ragamala paintings. And while talking to her and getting fascinated about the passion in which she did her research, I was really driving into what she was doing. And then suddenly one exhibition which was planned, we had to cancel. There was a gap in our exhibition agenda. Only 2 years' time, a big international collaboration collapsed, went away, and we had to say, oh no, what do we do? And then I said, look, let's try something. Let's do an exhibition with Sonika on Ragamala. This caused some hesitation, I must say, because not only that my colleagues didn't know Sonika, she's new, but also the topic of Ragamala is quite exotic, or it's a niche topic.
Sorry to interrupt.
So,
could you please just hold the mic?
It's a niche topic. Sorry. Okay, thank you. So, as you can imagine, if you ask someone in Zurich what Ragamala is, you will get not many answers. And this was something which I liked, this challenge, to do something on a topic which is really unknown to our audiences, and to unfold this fascinating story of these paintings combining, poetry, painting, and music. How difficult it was, and the challenges we faced in the process of translating emotions from India into Zurich, we can talk about that later. But I just want to add another aspect to this exhibition. So we try to make our shows more relevant in inviting contemporary artists or talking about contemporary issues in our exhibition projects. So when Sonika found out that we needed in our Ragamala exhibition 2 paintings from other museum loans, we should absolutely have the Monsoon Rag and this Rag. I said, no, we do something different. Let us invite some contemporary artists to do these ragas for us. Give them the freedom to do it as they think it should be done. We give them the music and the poetry, and you create it. And this is how we got Manish on board and our other dear friend Murad Mumtaz, who can't be here for obvious reasons. And we decided to document the process of making these paintings, which you can see as reproductions here. They are not originals, but it gives you some idea. And I need to thank you in particular, Nita Premchand, who was the first person to tell me in Zurich, Johannes, this is fantastic, let's do that and I support you. And don't worry about funding and getting some money, but this is important, let's do that. So Nita, thank you very much. And yes. This was apart from the substantial support, this encouraging moment really made me go and convince my colleagues, and we did it. And it was a niche topic, but we had some, I think, substantial number of visitors, and we can be proud of having achieved that. With that, I think I would like to hand over the mic to Sonika, and keep it close to your mouth.
Thank you very much, Johannes. And good evening, all of you. I'm Sonika, and welcome all of you. I would like to start a presentation. See, if we start talking about Ragamala, we'll need probably a full year, because Ragamala spans around throughout the year. They capture seasons, they capture times and whatnot. So I will try and skip a lot of parts, but try and focus on some interesting bits which I think are interesting. So Ragamala. See, this is not a Swiss audience, this is the best bit. So there are so many things that I don't need to, spoon feed. For example, when I started talking about the onset of monsoon, the first time when I spoke to my my Swiss colleagues, that how beautiful is the monsoon, how beautiful is the sound of the rumbling clouds and the smell that it brings and the joy it brings. And they were all looking at me with the blank faces like, what are you saying? This is bad news. They couldn't get it. And that's the moment I realized that, it will have to be spoon-fed. So everything have to be, because of the cultural disparities, that everything will have to be brought in right from the beginning. So Ragamala. So mala is a mala, it's a garland. And it's a garland of rags. And I will not get into what is rag. I'm not a musician. I'm a very good audience, but I'm not a player myself or a singer myself. So ragas are the Indian classical music. And when you put many rags together, it becomes a Ragamala. But then what we are talking about Ragamala, it's an idiom. It's not necessarily coming together of the music melodies together or music modes together. It's the mala of poem, painting and music together. So that's the mala. And then when you make the paintings which are based on the poems and the poems which are inspired by the abstract music. So in synchronization, all of these are like little flowers of the malas, and that creates the Ragamala. And what are the factors in it? Most important aspect is time in the day. So there are different rags which are based on different times of the day. There are morning rags like Bhairavi, there are afternoon rags, evening rags, night rags. Then there are seasonal rags. For example, Basant. Basant is a Basant rag like what Murad has produced, and Megh what Manish has produced. Within that, there are so many nuances. For example, like I said, the Megh rag is only about clouds. It's not about rain. It's only when you, first of all, after a long scorching summer, when you encounter the black clouds, gathering, rumbling, rounding. So that rounding of the clouds, that, how the formation of the clouds is what is captured in the music. You go back and listen to it and you will realize that that's how it is manifested in music. But that's only about the clouds. But when it starts raining, the atmosphere changes, the expectation changes into, the anticipation changes into enjoyment, joy. It's finally rained. Mood changes completely. Then it becomes Megh Malar. Megh Malar is when it is raining in the night. What if it rains in the afternoon? It's a different mood because it's a different smell along with it. The atmosphere is different. It becomes Set Malar. So within each, there are multiple nuances. So that's how complicated Ragamala is. So today I'm just introducing you with the complexities of the Ragamala. We'll try and not resolve many of these complexities, just introduce how complex they can get. And what is the end of it is that, how I'm saying that if it is raining in the night, it has a different manifestation, different mood, as versus in the afternoon or in the morning. That means it is affecting the emotions of human beings. And it affects women and men differently. That's how at least poets of the past thought about it. That it is affecting men and women differently. Women, obviously, with a larger spectrum of emotions, they had much more to convey to Ragamala than the men. Yeah? Keep that in mind. We have much more. So this maybe I can quickly touch that the rags are basically from the 7 notes Saregama, Padani, which are very close to Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, but the rendition is completely different. After that, whatever happens is completely different. There are microtones which are called Shrutis that gives the ragas the emotional effect. And all the ragas are just combination of these 7 notes and these microtones, Shrutis. So for example, in Hindol rag, from Saregama, Pa, Dha, Ni, Sa, if you omit Re and Pa, you get Hindol rag. But then there are other rags where you can include shrutis, microtones and whatnot, and that's how you get the rags. Let's not get into that. Now this is interesting part, the male and female. That, how did the rag, and in the Ragamala, it's very important that there are certain rags which are male, then there are raginis which are female. Rags are only 6. And they are the heads of the family. Now think of it as a huge family. Let's get into the family system. Very complicated structures. There are 6 head of the families. So, and then all of them have multiple wives. 5 or 6 wives each. They are raginis. So, in total, it becomes a system of 36 either, or in complicated systems, it becomes a family of 84. So, very complex system. Now, this is when you combine the music of rag, the notations of the rag and the ragini, and you can actually bring out a newer rag. Just combining the 2 notes, the 2 melodies. You create a 3rd melody. And initially it was the Ragaputras. They initially, like for example, in 13th century or 14th century, there were only Ragaputras introduced. No, even in 8th century, sorry. With the poet called Kshemakarna, he introduced a system where he introduced 6 rags, that is the male of the family, head of the families, each with the 6 wives, and then the combination rags became the Ragaputras. Yeah, and this became a system of about 113 or 114 rags in one family. Are you still with me? Yes. Yeah? And then some of the genius poets also introduced, by further combinations and permutations, Ragaputris and Bharyas even, called daughter-in-laws. There are very few. There are only 2 or 3 sets which have really elaborate Ragaputras and Ragaputris and Bharyas. Unfortunately, I'm working on one of them which has more than 200 family members in one series. But also to keep in mind that these paintings were never standalone. They were always made as series. They were always made as a series of these 6 rags, 5 or 6 raginis of each, and then sometimes Ragaputras and Ragaputris as well. So you always encounter them. But now, majority of the series have been dismantled and have been sold off as single pieces, loose pieces. So it's very difficult to reconstruct a series now. And then what we did in the exhibition was we literally broke the 3 parts of Ragamala. We had one section only on music, one only on poetry, one only on music. And in the center of the exhibition, we united them all. So we did the exhibition in a way that in the center we had 24 podiums, about an hour each, because in India, when the system was created, it was based on the prahars, which is approximately 2 to 3 hours each, and not necessarily hourly, which is a Western concept. So in the center, but just to keep up so that people can easily access it, we had 24 podiums, just to simulate, just to have a resonance of the time, 24 hours of the day. And with each on each podium, we had one painting, original painting. We had specially curated music to suit that painting. So we had the music attachment to it, and we had the poetry. So people could understand and access all the 3 aspects simultaneously as well as secluded. And then there's 3 separate sections had majority information, one only on music, one only on poetry, one only on painting, where we could talk more about what are the different poetic traditions and what are the different painting schools and whatnot. So this was how basic layout of the. But we also include, like Johannes has already introduced, that because we could not get the loans, thankfully we collaborated with these 2 contemporary miniaturists, one from India and one from Pakistan, and we had this one special section called Ragamala Today, Ragamala heute, and where we had the 2 paintings that they created, and in the center we had the videos of documenting their process, that what were their inspiration, what were their life, who are these artists, how did they go about making these paintings and whatnot. So there were these 2 introductory videos. That's when we realized, just think about it, the Ragamala tradition. So the music is starting from, we have the earliest encounters from 2nd, 3rd century. Poetry is introduced in 6th, 7th century, and that was only shloks, Sanskrit shloks. But then it became into full poetry in 13th, 14th century. And 16th, 18th century, it became a genre of its own poetry. And then the painting started from 15th century. So it took its own course to develop. yeah, from 2nd century till today. So it took these many years. And then I realized that, people were creative enough and open enough to introduce these niched, to translate them from music to poetry to painting. And that's when we realized that we have achieved a eureka moment. The movies is the fourth pearl in the mala. And then, after you have seen the movie, if you had seen this exhibition, you would have realized that there is no going back from it. You need to have movies as an essential part of the Ragamala now. So this exhibition, one of the achievements was that we have added one more pearl or a flower or whatever you want to call it in this mala of Ragamala. And very interestingly, because I'm insisting more about the time in the day, that how rags are, very closely connected with the times, and that's how we did the central part of the exhibition as well. So when we were planning the exhibition, and very interesting part that we planned this exhibition, so I didn't curate it, I just gave the concept. It was curated by all the different members, all the different departments in the museum. We had all our meetings together. And we designed this exhibition right from the conceptual phase. So when I was explaining that, how the time is related and how time is very closely connected, they thought of Swiss watches. And then that's how they came up with the basic idea of the exhibition. So this is the ground plan of the exhibition, where we have 3 sections, one of music, one of painting, and one of poetry. And in the center, there are these 24 stations. And then there were a lot going it was extremely interactive. We had so many interactivities, and all of them became the cogwheels of this giant machine that is Ragamala. And one more interesting aspect about Ragamala, that these paintings at one point, let's say starting from 16th century, they became so popular, especially amongst the royals and aristocrats, that each king or a prince or a princess would get a series customized for themselves. So in India, more than 150 Ragamala series were painted. And if we count individual painting, there were more than 4,000 paintings that were created. And then these people had the liberty and had the luxury to have their own court poets, court painters, and court musicians who could interpret it and then create a series for themselves, and customize a series for the patron. So it was always collaborative. That's what we think, that it was always extremely collaborative, this whole Ragamala tradition. And that's what we tried and created when we did the exhibition. It was an extremely collaborative process where I was just one of the, one of the elements of so many people, including the musicians, including a music director, a film director, everybody included. So it was extremely collaborative. So in a way, we recreated the tradition, but for a different audience. Now, enough background, let's get into what are Ragamala paintings. Let's try and understand a few. So I will explain one painting, and rest of the paintings we see together, try and interpret together. Okay? Yes? So this is a very unusual painting. It's called Savant Sarang Ragini. It's not a very commonly sung rag. And the painting so far I've encountered only one out of those 150 series that I'm mentioning. So there was this one painter who was very creative enough, and he included extremely uncommon names in his series. And one of them is Savant Sarang. And unfortunately, the poetry on which this painting was based is lost. So we were entirely dependent on pictorial motifs, that how do we read this painting? Yeah? So this is an afternoon rag. As you can see with the scorching sun on along with the golden rays in the corner, there is a bright sun. And how do we know that it's an afternoon rag? Because first of all, and also there is a one-liner written on it which says it's Dopahar ka rag. And then what we see is that what she is encountering, there is a central figure in the painting. What she is encountering is the heat of summer. So that means external heat as well as heat of separation, that is the internal bodily heat. So it's extremely explicit. So let's try and see what's happening here. Because of the unbearable heat, she has put up this temporary settlement which is made out of khas, the vetiver grass, which has a smell in it, beautiful smell, but it is a coolant. So there is a coolant there. Then it is put right under the shadow of the trees. There's so many trees, each of them either blooming, and you can see specifically raw mangoes. Now, when are raw mangoes which season is it? Summer. So that's how we know it's the summer depiction. We see the raw mangoes, but they have a very specific smell to them. And then we have the champakas there, we have banana leaves there. So that's the canopy. Then there is another canopy in front of this shade, in front of this settlement. That means there needed another protection from the sun there. Then it has been laid in front of a pond. So it's an indoor pond. It doesn't look like a river or a lake. It looks like an indoor pond. That means they were probably rich enough to have an indoor pond where they could have the lotus plantation. Now in the indoor ponds, the water is not flowing constantly. It's stagnant. So we could immediately imagine that there is a smell of the stagnant water mixed with this lotus in it. So that was another smell aspect in it. Now, if you see her, can you all see this image very clearly? It's clear enough, right? So now the way she is resting, her blouse, the lower strings of the blouse are loosened. It's not tied. It's unbearable for her, like both the kinds of heat, external, internal. So she has loosened her blouse. Her arms are like flowing up on her head. It's really, again, unbearable. And then the way, and what these women are doing, she is pouring rose water on her because that flask is made for rose water. So she's trying to cool her body down with rose water, probably not helping. This woman is holding this long string, which is attached with this fan. So she's trying to fan her, probably again not well. She is holding another rod here, which is also for the hand fan. So there are three people trying to help her, not helping. Then there are these seasonal fruits, again, very specific of summer season. There are some mangoes and melons, and now interestingly see how all the fruits and all the birds and ducks, they are shown in pairs to juxtapose with how single she is and how desperate she is. And in the desperate, and now very interesting thing, let's go back to the central figure again. The way she is crossing her legs, tightly folding her legs, trying to quench her thirst. She's trying to really, it's in a desperate moment right now, but nothing seems to be helping. Poor thing, helpless right now. So that's the emotion in the painting. That this is the heat, unbearable, and at the same time playful. And that's how the music begins. So would you like to listen to this music? Yes, of course.
De da ra na 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 re da ra na 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 ti ra na 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 ra na na re da ra ta na na ra na na de da ra 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 na 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 re da na re da ra na na ra na na de da na ra na na ra na de ra na na de da ra
That's how we did very small recordings, 2 to 3 minutes for each painting. So we studied each painting along with the music director, who then brought in music players and singers and from all over India, and we recorded this music in Bangalore. So the playlist is available. There's probably a QR code. It's also in the catalog, and all of them are unique. All of them are very beautiful and small. Now we have to read this painting together. First of all, tell me, what time do you see here? Night, exactly. So we have our first clue. Is the woman looking happy? No. What is she looking like? Confused. Okay, very good answer. I've got my second answer. What's inside the room? There's a bed. Is there anyone on the bed? No. Empty bed. One of the most common pictorial motifs in Indian paintings. Wherever you see an empty bed inside a chamber, that means something has happened in the love villa. There is a quarrel happening. So something has very grave happened here as well. That you see a footwear on the steps. Somebody is left abruptly. What? Why? Why do we think that might have happened? There are 1,000 reasons. But left abruptly. Somebody left abruptly, meaning the other person who is left behind must be sad and angry. And she is super angry, burning like coals. Do you see her burning in the painting anywhere? Exactly. So there is a coal. So if there is an indoor coal setup, which season do you think it is? Perfect. See, now you have already gotten to it. So there is a fire, little fire, and these are the coals, like angare. Because now, also very interestingly, there is a poem. Sorry. Let's listen to the music first. What did the music made you feel? Was it related? Could you feel anything related to the painting?
It started with anger,
Yeah.
and then became sadness and upset.
Exactly, that was our aim. Thank you. So there were like a lot of drums in between, but then the sarangi was played on a very melancholic note. So there is a melancholy as well as anger together. Yeah. Yeah. Now, very interestingly, for this painting, we have a poem. So now let's try and relate. So the music, you have heard music, which is extremely abstract, but you feel something from it. Even if I didn't show you the painting, you could have felt something. And obviously with different interpretation. All of us, depending on how we are feeling right now, we would interpret music differently. But then there is a poem to it, which says, I don't need to read it in the regional language, right? So I'll just go directly to the translation. So, abandoning the garlands of union with the lover, burning with fire of separation. So there is a clear burning aspect in the poem. It says, Angar bhaye. Turning into flaming coals. That's how it says, the Angar bhaye. A friend patiently showing affection. You can see the friend as well. Having fallen in love, this is Patamanjari. And the word Patamanjari is also like Pata and Manjari. So that is, she has fallen in love. Like how the leaves fall from the trees, that's how she has fallen. Now there could be two meanings of it. Either she's falling in love or she's fallen in love. That she's fallen flat on her face in love. So there could be two meanings to it. But you see that how the painter has picked up the clues from the painting, from the poetry, and has put the fire and the flaming coals and the saheli, and then to show, how do you show that, there is a separation, they have put this bed inside, and then obviously the anger aspect comes from just with placing the slippers. So it's so smart, this, and then each of these paintings is equally delicate, and you really need to get into it along with the music, along with the poem, element by element. So each corner in the painting, like if you notice even in the trees up, when you see these birds, they are waking up. Because there's something disastrous happening. There's somebody who's so unresting right now that the noise has waken up even the birds. So each element in the pictorial depiction gives you clues to enter into the paintings. Sorry.
The birds are also alone.
The birds are also alone, exactly. And they're looking in different, exactly. And they're looking in different directions. They're not together. Yeah, very well. Thank you. Yeah. Now, very interestingly, why I chose this particular painting is because at Sarmaya also they have a Patamanjari, which is this one, which is done, this is done in Mewar, that's done in central India. But you can see how different or common they are. There are some aspects which are similar, but I believe this painting is probably cut. There must be something else to it, which we are not able to see. But Paul, is this how you got this painting?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? So there is some aspect to it which is being cut off. Where the woman is, the central character is missing. Now there is another one which is called Kedar Ragini. Now very interestingly, what you see here, the central characters, there are sadhus, but it's a Ragini. So how is that? Is this actually a man? So, my favorite aspect when I studied Ragamala paintings was that it shows union and separation in different intensities. So, for example, I don't have Todi Ragini right now, where she's so sweet, she's missing the husband, and early in the morning she's walking around by the lake and singing because she's missing him. She's enjoying that missing aspect. So there is that aspect. Then there is, you saw the Savan Sarang Ragini where she is desperate for physical affection. So she was physically missing somebody, separated. Then there are certain paintings where you see, for example, there is a Dhanashri, where the desperation is to see the lover right now. She just wants to see him right now. And obviously in this time where there were no videos and photos, whatever available, she starts drawing a painting of the lover. So and then when she's drawing the painting, the figure is coming through and she starts crying looking at it. And because of the teardrops, she can never finish the painting. So that's the sentiment that's portrayed in that painting. So you see what I'm talking about is the intensities of separation. And in the end, there comes the frustration and negation. Sorry for the bad word, no, I don't want to use it. That hell with the word, I don't want to do anything with the world, becomes a sadhvi. But then in the older times, there was no word as sadhvi because of, I don't know, whatever gender. They always use the word sadhu, which has a male connotation. Painters read the word sadhu and portrayed this Ragini as sadhu. And there are many such examples. Within these sadhvis also there are intensities, because one is like who's initiated into it, which is Bengal. Then here, where she is settled as sadhu, which is Kedar, and there are many more. There are Dev Gandhar and whatnot. So here it's a Ragini. But then also when she is leaving the world behind, she is also leaving the physical attributes behind. She does not want to do anything with anybody, neither with her feminine or masculine traits. So she becomes just one body. That is how we manifest as a sadhu. So that's how she is shown here as a sadhu. So that's the story of Kedar Ragini. And we have this very beautiful Kedar at Sarmaya collection also, which is placed right behind. We have a music for it. Very small, 2 minutes. That's it. So according to some of the poems for Kedar, she has now become so powerful and like she has acquired the Shiva in herself, that she has become a healer. So her music has become healing, has healing properties for others, and others afflicted hearts are coming to her and getting healed from her music. So that's the idea behind this painting. Now I want to introduce you straight away to the two new compositions that we created, which this is Megh Rag from Manish, and again when we gave them the prompts, we had a workshop in Zurich where we had some musicians, where music singers and music directors, and we had filmmakers, and we had both these artists, and we had a 3 or 4 days workshop where we saw the paintings, we listened to the music, we read the poems together, and then we asked them. There were 2 rags which we wanted, Megh and Basant, because at Museum Riedberg we didn't have very good examples. So we asked them, which one do you want to choose? Immediately he picked up Megh Rag, and Murad picked up Basant Rag. And this is his rendition. So the idea, the prompts were very simple, that you see the original paintings, you read the poem, you listen to the music, you go and talk to musicians, you do whatever research you want to do, but we want your own interpretation of it. But in a traditional language, which their language is anyhow traditional because both of them are trained in traditional techniques, one in India and one is Pakistan. So that was the prompt. So what he did is that he started his thinking process right in that workshop moment. So when it was when he was already in Zurich. So what you see on the top of these two hills that you see, that's already Zurich. So that's when the conceptual phase started. So he introduced that. So he basically put his own journey into it. So from that, the landscape with the river changes into his own Rajasthan landscape. And then what you see on this side are basically the paintings which are based on clouds. So for example, there is a Baramasa painting of the 12 months which has a subject on Savan Mahina, on the month of monsoon. And there are many, for example, Krishna lifting Govardhan. So there are these paintings which he has created as in these bubbles and on the sides. That is the thinking, like a thinking box. So when you see that painting, you'll realize that how he's put his inspiration into the painting. And then this is all which he noticed live during the onset of monsoon in his own environment. So whatever colorful aspects that you see, the nature especially, this is all live observed. And then what is interesting is, because he was given the assignment to paint, he inserted himself as the convener right now, as the one who's thinking. He's in a black box, which is basically timelessness. And because obviously when you're thinking about it, you're traveling thousands of years back through music and poem and painting. So he's in that timeless and spaceless box, but his painting is jutting out and taking inspirations from his journey. And what he created is actually this painting, which is extremely traditional. This is how exactly Meghrag paintings were made. So you have the actual Meghrag painting from a 17th or 18th century, but set in his own contemporary world. So that's his idea of Meghrag. And we have Murad's paintings, where he did the Basant Rag, which is the springtime rag. And there he did a triptych. So he wanted to bring three aspects of Basant. One is the ascent of Basant, descent of Basant, and one his own interpretation called the melting mountains. So ascent it's also again a nighttime rag, where you see the moon rising, full moon. In one painting there's a full moon, where along with the moon, the spring is now finally starting to appear, where you see now the buds have come up. They are still buds, they are not bloomed. Then there is one candle and then some flower pots which are still blooming. Then there is a descent that when it finally arrives, it feels as if Krishna has appeared along with us. So where you see Krishna descended, but then the moon changes to his orb, to his halo around his face. Then there is no moon. But what is also interesting is that in these three paintings, the stars and constellations that you see are actually observed in springtime where he was in Pakistan. So again, there is he's trying to bring his own, relevance and his own being. Then in the second, when the Krishna is there, the flowers are blooming. And then there is more flame. There are two flames there. And then the flames in his painting. So Murad uses fire as a metaphor for human intervention in nature. So here you see it's very symbolic, the human intervention. But in the third painting, there is a proper fire. That's where the human intervention is apparent. And what is the result of it? That the beautiful landscape is causing the melting mountains, which is a pun on the ecology as well. So that's how he that's how he brought in the third one with a crescent moon. So you see three different phases observed within the spring seasons. So these are it. Thank you very much. That's it.
So as all of you just heard, there were two artists working in tandem. One was Manish Soni, who is right here with us, and that's his work at the back there. And a copy. The original is bigger also. And then there was Murad, who is in Pakistan. And there's a movie on Murad also going through the same process for the Rag Basant. And we don't have time, but Johannes will tell you how to access both of these movies. They are available in the public domain, so you can have a look at that. now request Johannes, Harsha, maker of the movie.
Yes, sir.
Open the website.
Manish,
What do you need?
The website. I want to know.
protagonist and the
You want me to
painter.
type it?
And of course, I'd like to add that Manish and I have been working for a better part of 7 years now on a series of 31 works which famously go under the name Isanama. Manish is the painter and we've collaborated over many years for that series. So, inshallah, one of these days we shall bring that also. Yeah. Then, of course, Sonika, you know, and then I'm also going to request Johannes.
Just give me.
Yeah.
And can you share this?
And of course, Johannes is today officially become, what do you call the term? Professor?
Of practice
Professor of Practice
at Sarmaya
at
University.
Sonia. And that is, under the new education policy, you don't have to have professors on the rolls. You can actually have external resources who are good in the subject invited to be resource person. So he's, as of today, Professor of Practice at Sonia.
I wanted to share before we start the website of the GBF Foundation. So if you Google gbf-foundation.ch, if you find that, and you see here media library, right? You will find books and films, and there is, you can watch at home again as often as you want. Portrait of a Cloud, and I invite you and insist that you should watch also Musawi Palace of Tradition by Jawad Sharif, who is a very famous and important young filmmaker in Pakistan today. So I cordially invite you to watch these movies at home quietly. So,
Huh? Yeah. So I'm going to start with you, Manish. Because we've seen the movie, we have a sense of the final product, and we have some sense of the process that you went through in its creation. But there must have been a moment before you started where you envisaged the whole work, or some of it evolved as you went along?
If you noticed, the clouds which I was making with a spray brush in the film, they are not in the painting. So it changed. Initially, I was making the painting like horizontally, and now it's in portrait mode. So the process was going on. I was keep changing. I think Harsha will let me know that how frustrated he was because he comes to Bhilwara with a team to shoot. And I just tell him always that, Harsha, there's a slight change in the painting. I said, all the films have gone, all the recordings have dustbin. So it's a process. It was like for 7 months. It was continuous journey, and I was reshaping every time my ideas.
Okay, so then that brings me to you, Harsha. Did you start this with a formal mandate that this is what you need to produce, or did you, okay, to put it simply, were you documenting what he was doing, or were you also mandated to create a state of mind and a mood?
Thank you. Actually, it began in Zurich, where all of us met for a workshop first. Jawad, Murad, me, Manish, and they both spoke about the topic and the plans, and we kind of conceived or spoke of what we will each do. And it kind of began there as a thought process because there was some guidelines of what they want us to do for the exhibition. As curators, they had a certain vision as well. So that kind of started the thought. But of course, when we reached Bhilwara for the first time for me, and sitting with Manish, one is I learned that this is an evolving process, as he mentioned, right? So it continuously changes. The other was that the documenting would, 7 months to complete the painting, but if you notice the paint making, the paper making, every step of this process is such an intensely laborious, meticulous journey. The gum alone that he uses as a binder is from a thorn that one woman goes at a specific season to go and get. You can't make a film with that kind of details to follow, or many such examples. So we realized very soon, within the first month, that actually documenting this is not something that we can do as a film. We'd rather use that as make shorter videos that can be used. So there's a short video on materials in miniature, for example. There's one on moods and the various the various moods that the painting goes through, which are separate videos. And the film actually evolved from these conversations that we were having with Manish over months, and realizing also that actually he is as interesting as his art form. And his conversations, as he says, with the paintings, these conversations are important to kind of understand in the making of the painting, what goes on in his mind, and which is why the personal story of how he began as a painter, or the kind of things that goes on while he's painting, the tap that is broken, or the breakfast we had, and so on. And we felt like actually the mindscape, which is why it's called Mindscape of a Miniature Artist, and that is something that I wanted to show, and that for me was more interesting as well in the film.
I just wanted to add in this that, initially Harsha just asked me that, Manish, please tell me what should I shoot. So, because he's never done a film on a painter, a traditional painter. So the one thing which I wanted him to do is, what I really enjoy is my rhythm of breath when I do the painting. And he smartly put that rhythm in the film. If you just watch it silently or watch it again, you can hear when I do the line how my breath goes in that synchronization. And if I'm doing shorter things, the breath is completely different. So that is something, I thank you for that.
There are a lot of such details. There's the breathing, there's that. There's also the sound of the brush, which we explored in detail because we put a mic on the brush, and Manish heard the sound of his brush for the first time, and he got so excited by it that he started painting only with headphones on and listening to the brush. There's also the landscape that you see extensively, because that's the first thing we did. We just traveled with him across Bhilwara. There's these waterfalls that we visited, the forests that you see. It's fantastic, the landscape there. And that I could see coming into his painting, his sketches, his thought process. So it's sort of also the context and the environment around him that slowly starts to feed in. So these details, I think, are also important.
Yeah, well, some of this I've experienced firsthand. I've been doing this for, almost a decade with him now. And his daughter, who was just so small when we first met, and who used to join in the process of making the painting and making the paper. It was all a fun, But it is incredible, the actual tools of the trade, the process of the trade, the way the mind has to come together and tune in. So if I were to ask you, Sonika, this whole, tell us a little more about the genre of Ragamala, because like you said earlier, there are many portfolios, and I'm presuming they kind of had some underlying connection to the styles of those ateliers or schools. So from Pahadi to Dakhini. So how did that process take place, and over what period are we talking about? Yeah.
So the painting started, like I said, in 15th century. At the first encounter of Ragamala, the rags, the 6 male rags that you see are part of a Jain manuscript, where you see just the attributes, like a figure with various attributes and different colors to each representing a season. So there are 6 seasons, 6 rags with several attributes. So that's how it started. And those were based on Sanskrit shloks, which are basically just telling you the dhyan. They are called the dhyana shlokas. So dhyana shlok meaning you read that shlok and you make a mental image, and when you listen to the music, that image helps you meditate. So there is definitely a spiritual aspect to it, that the rags and these images help you in meditating. But then over the period, like I said, that this poetry, the Sanskrit shloks turned into fully fledged poems, Braj Bhasha poems and different language poems from 8th century onward. And it became really, especially in the central India, it became very popular, and there you have like amazingly beautiful, like the poem itself is so beautiful that you do not need anything else. And they're like really, and those are especially 13th century onward, and 16th and 17th century you get the best poems on Ragamala ever. They're really filled with emotions and whatnot. And pictorial tradition, which is absolutely a distinct tradition from music and painting. At some point, I think, because these court poets and painters, they were all sitting together at one court and obviously must have had conversations, such amazing, lively conversations with each other, that at one point they thought of collaborating and making this, developing this genre, so to say. And then it became so popular, and also because these 3 art forms were part of the high art form. Only specific people who had the liberties could experience. And just think about it, that for the poetry, it was part of literature, it was a high art form, and music and painting, they were not accessible to everyone. They were accessible only to certain people, and they exploited themselves in it. They really invested their time and energies learning it. So experiencing music and getting the sense from a poem or enjoying a poetry, it's a leisurely process and it's an intellectual exercise. You really need to get into it detail by detail, and you need to prepare yourself. You need to study a lot. So that's when, for these art forms, the painters and poets, they are obviously important, but a connoisseur is equally important. You cannot take the rasa out of it. So rasa is one major aspect which I have not spoken about today, that they are all meant to give you a rasa. And rasa is basically a physical reaction. Sometimes when you listen to music, do you get goosebumps? Or do you sometimes cry? I do. That's a rasa that is being evoked from me through a specific art form. So that is the whole purpose of it.
So, coming back to the same question, where would I find the finest examples of the Ragamala?
It depends on what style do you personally like. It's a subjective choice. So say there are certain people who like Central Indian paintings, Pahari paintings, or some, right now if you ask me, my favorite is this one Kota series that I'm working on. It was done in 1775 and it has more than 200 paintings in it. And that's where artists have gone like all out. He's brought in the metaphors and symbolism so beautifully, it's unimaginable. So it's extremely subjective, but having said that, the specifically Pahari tradition, which is based on the poet called Kshemakarna, they experimented a little bit. So all over the India, there is a certain iconography that you come, like for example, if you see the Megh Rag that Manish has, the tiny painting that he's making, you will see Megh Rag just like this across all the styles and schools and across all the periods. But it will be slightly different in Pahari tradition, because those were the artists probably secluded, they did not have as much as conversation with the other part of India back then. So they developed their own tradition, their iconography is a bit different. So that's the only difference. Otherwise, you will come across the iconography. For example, the Pattu Manjari, you will have this desolate Nayika in the center throughout, across the board. So that's the difference.
Yeah, but also seasons, you experience seasons very differently in different geographies of the country, right?
So, absolutely. So the color palette changes, and obviously the time of the day based on that also, because you see different skies in different parts of India. So that in South Asia, so to say. So that changes. So there are many factors which has led to development of this genre in different areas.
So, Johannes, coming to you. This is something that was conceived sitting in Zurich by an institution that has a lot of connections in the subcontinent over the years. But the lens with which this exhibition was conceived was it an Eastern eye showcasing to the West, or was it already meant to be simplified for the Western eye?
I think this question it's both. It's always both. When you work together, it's not the perspective of the East or the West or the Indian or the European and the other way around. It is something which you create together. And this is what we did from the day one. And this collaborative approach, which it goes beyond borders. We worked with filmmakers and artists from Pakistan, India, Switzerland, designers from Switzerland, the film crew in India. So this collaborative way of doing things makes you, it's a challenge. There are a lot of problems in translating topics, issues. When Sonika says, "Oh, do you feel the grief?" and I said, "No." Or, "Don't you feel that this rag evokes this sentiment?" And I said, "Absolutely not." It's, we are so formatted differently, but in doing it together and sitting with the designer and the art educators and coming jointly to a conclusion, this is a beautiful process. It takes long time. And there are a lot of rounds which are frustrating. When my team told me, "Look, we are working for 3 months on the project, I still don't understand what we are doing." This is very hard to accept, right? When Sonika then said, "Look, poetry, the music, don't you see how this?" And we looked in our colleagues' faces and blank faces and understood, okay, they didn't understand what. And how do you translate words or concepts from one language into another? What is rag? How do you translate simple notions from one language into another without giving 50 minutes or 10 pages to read what exactly you mean? This is a challenge. And then what is even more interesting, but it's a great joy to do, is to reduce the complexity and transform this experience this journey which we all do together, into something you bring on stage and which people enjoy and they get into it. And the most beautiful moments in the exhibition, I think we all saw and experienced, is when you had people staying there for 20 minutes, half an hour, 1 hour, coming back for an hour and listening to the music, laying down. We had the architecture you had seen. So there were places where you could relax, lay down, listen to the music, read, watch. And to allow this immersive experience, this was really beautiful. And then and our audience, it's across ages, across nations, educated children, they're European, they're tourists, they're Indians, so all this kind of audiences, very diverse, but they got into it. We worked with disabled children. Sonika got some tactile paintings. We had people who suffered from autism. We refugees. We worked with a diversity of communities and people with being disabled and what so forth. But we had in the end this impression that it worked, what we tried to make. And so it's not about perspectives of East and West and who is first and who is interpreting whom. It's more this joint collaboration which we celebrate in this exhibition.
No, absolutely. Lovely to hear that. Just coming from the perspective that you have a culture manifested in a particular way in one society, and then you want to transport the beauty of that into a different society. So it's that journey that I was, more keen on knowing. In terms of, you and Murad, Manish, how did you two collaborate? Because, when I watched that movie, it's amazing how he's sitting in a small school in Lahore and actually, discussing Krishna and discussing everything, and it was such a wonderful, visual for me to, see that happen there, Yeah. So, did you have multiple conversations?
I mean, you've seen that our conversation was through brush strokes. He's from Pakistan, and he's a Muslim, and painting a Krishna. So many different things were there. We can't discuss it. Why? I can't ask him, why are you painting Krishna? So our conversation was through brush or strokes or the lessons which we get from our past. That was our conversation.
May I add that apart from seeing our audiences, for me the most beautiful and powerful moments in the exhibition were when Murad and Manish were together, and we had Jawad and Harsha in the same room in the exhibition, and these workshops and meetings we had. This is something, I think, a highlight in my career, and I will never forget. This is so powerful, and this will stay with me. I'm so happy about that.
Yeah, I mean, I wish we had the time to, showcase the other movie too, which we have. But it's also really beautiful, and it has a beautiful historic setting when you see it. But I urge you all to see it. I'm going to open it to the house for any questions, please.
Sorry, I have questions, thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, one second.
It took me 7 or 8 months to complete this painting, Harsha. And I can feel his prostration. And it took me 5 years to complete Isanama. So, thank you for all the patience, Paul.
But how many paintings in the series of the Isanama?
It's 31.
That's not bad. 7 months for one. And so.
But there were times he was scolding me, boss, where are you? I was like ghosted.
And this 5 is actually mathematically slightly off.
Please not subvert this point.
That's me, question.
Okay, this is coming from as a scholar and an academic. We teach Ragamala, and I've studied it for 35 years. I've done my PhD is on Rasa.
Oh, wonderful.
All right. So I'm familiar with what you're trying to achieve. My question here, how did you recreate music for ragas which don't exist?
Yeah.
For example, and I will just take the Patamanjari painting since we've seen it. And this is applicable to a whole others, as you know. So the Patamanjari as a ragini, we don't even know at all what it sounded like. There are, what is the cat doing there? Is it like the purr of the cat, which is again what some scholars like Klaus Ebeling and all have written. So how do you fill in the gaps? I mean, either you select paintings where you have a sound equivalent, right? But what about those that don't?
So the thing is, so it was a complicated process, this exhibition, but I took it upon as a challenge to really take some of the ragas which are non-existing anymore. And then it took us 1 year to go through each and every painting and discuss each and every painting at length, going through each and every element in it, and then researching on whatever historical knowledge about the literature that we can have. So we read so much, it's incredible, and we tried getting, back in the, like, where do you see Patmanjari for the first time ever? Where does it appear? And what has the poet written about it? So we got the notations, right? And then obviously in the interpretations of the notations, they also give clues to how to interpret it musically. So we tried recreating that. There are many, if you see in the QR code, there are in the list of music that we have recreated, there's Gambhir. There are plenty of such rags which are non-existing, not in practice anymore. So, and then also, like, sometimes we took the clues from the concerned, like the nearest possible rags. For example, Yaman and Kalyan. So there is a Jod Rag, Yaman, Kalyan. But then it is a part of Yaman and there is part of Kalyan. So that's how we, got into it. Like, for example, Savant Sarang also. We have Savant, we have Sarang, but we don't have Savant Sarang. So, but we had the notations. So we took the clues and then looked at the painting, that what is this painting? So it's the other way around. Because initially the painters heard the music, then read the poem and created the painting. But what we did is, we looked at the painting, we read the poem and then created the music. Taking the historical clue.
You're kind of interpreting it. Because also the other thing then just one more. Is that there are symbols, or not just symbols, but there are tropes. Okay? So, which does not necessarily apply to the region or the place where it was. For example, the banana tree. The banana tree doesn't grow in Pahari region at all. Yet they use it. So then, what is it that you're deducting? Like, if you're getting smells, fragrances, how are you coming to that? Because I can understand your point where you say, I'm taking the essentials and I'm leaving other particularities. That you can do, yes. And you come to what it does. Because otherwise it's impossible, because 200 types of Ragamalas. You're not even talking about Chavand, which is the earliest. So and the development. And so I can understand you taking the commonality, just literally, they say the commonalities aspects of it, and leaving out the particularities. That I can understand. But this, connecting it, and yes, as a sensory experience is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. But how truthful is that historically was my question.
Historically, see, the thing is, a painting tradition has always been passing on from one place to the other, right? So, like, for example, if you see the Bikaner school, which is highly based on or influenced by the Deccani style, right? And when the paintings are traveling, they are bringing their own painterly elements to Bikaner, which are not existing in Bikaner, but they very well accepted it, adopted it, adapted it, right? That's what is happening in other styles as well. There is always a give and take. There are some things which Pahari paintings are giving to the other schools, and they are borrowing some elements from others. For example, the banana trees you rightly picked up. But you see it across the board. And then it becomes a motif or an idiom of a specific emotion. And then they use it nonchalantly. So, for example, you see banana especially in the monsoon paintings, irrespective of where it is painted, because that's become an idiom. There are many things in Indian paintings which are just used, like, for example, the bed chamber. You might not have similar bed chambers, the empty bed everywhere, but all the artists across the board are using it for expressing certain emotion.
Yes, but that's much later. That's much later. You're talking about 18th century.
No, even earlier also. You see it across 16th century Central India.
Once it becomes accepted iconography, it will be used.
But that's what is happening in all this, in Pahari as well.
I just have a quick comment. Sir, आपका जो conversations with your paintings. It is the most perfect, for me, description of how art is created. Thank you.
First of all, what an outstanding and incredible project, and really congratulations to all of you. And it's amazing, amazing. And for me, deeply personal, because my mother was a composer, a teacher of Hindustani classical music, and I was just sitting here next to Paul, and I thought, what a beautiful way to remember her. She just passed 4 months ago. So thank you for just bringing this to us. I have a few comments and then a question actually for Manish, but my comments are really that I think the most beautiful thing is that because you paired music with the paintings, you brought to life how culture lives in India. Because the beauty of an oral tradition and a culture like ours is that it's never expressed in linear form. It is really expressed in layers of time, and I think the way the exhibition was laid out and the way you Sonika, and I think that's the genius of the presentation, is to approach it in that multi-layered way, I think is absolutely brilliant, and I think really how exciting. But the second thing I wanted to say is that it's also very important for us to remember that as Indians, culture lives in the continuum. And while we're talking about 17th century and 18th century, and the scholarship is essential, what we must also understand is that we live this every day. When I'm listening to Kedar, my mother taught us to recognize rags through popular Hindi film music. So Kedar is Humko Man Ki Shakti Dena. And the words inspire that meditative, devotional quality that the rag and the period also inspire. Megh, I think it's Megh Malhar, but Bolore Papihara from Guddi, 1971, is about a woman yearning for her lover, and she tells the Papihara, the cuckoo bird, and this is contemporary culture. This is culture from the time that we all live in and we experience. So I think the beauty of a project like this is it is not a project about the past. Yeah. It's very much a chronicle about the present and about the uniqueness with which our culture sits in the continuum and dialogues with the rest of the world. So amazing, and thank you so much for bringing this. Manish, I have one question for you. Why did you choose the size that you chose for this painting? Because we talk about it as in the language of miniatures, but the scale and size of the painting, the one that we saw, is huge.
Just a one-line answer for this, that's the maximum size of paper I can get from the market.
No, but my question is, why did you want to make it a big work? Because I've seen you make very, very, very small works as well.
Yeah.
And I always think of you as the god of small things. So I'm curious as to why you made this big painting.
I mean, there's something inside me which wants to shout out, actually. But if you see the whole painting, actually it's very small. Yeah. So there is a small, the actual Megh painting, it's actually a very small thing. So I feel like I have something in me which wants to shout.
I wanted to ask you working.
I have.
Sorry.
Yeah. So absolutely amazing. And as just Pavitra mentioned, I'm a musician myself, and I lost my mother 3 months back, who was a violinist, the first one who took the violin to the Northeast. And so it was very, very evocative and moving and emotional for me, because she always talked about the rare ragas and the group ragas, the Ragini Patamanjari or Sarang Savan, Yamani Bilaval, Yaman Kalyan and all of that. So it was a treat for me. And especially with the program on music therapy that I'm currently doing for cancer patients. This is a great way to look at how we can evoke those moods. So thank you, Paul and Sarmaya. My question is that what an amazing way the present, the Swiss time watch, and the aerial view of the museum, the layout and the 24 kiosks, and of course poetry, music, and painting together, amazing. Are you looking at doing this, the music live? Because that's what we would love to see, and be part of, and love to see how it comes out. Today, if someone would have done Kedar live, can you imagine what it would have been? So just a thought that it would be an amazing next level for this wonderful experience that you gave us.
That's a question for Paul, actually. Are you inviting us along with our musicians?
In fact, in the place where it originated, I was thinking about we had
something called audience interactions, where every month, one of the Saturdays, we had a live musician, and who would do a live workshop with whoever, in the exhibition, in one of the spaces.
In the museum, in Switzerland.
Yeah.
In Zurich.
In the exhibition space, we would have every Saturday.
Wonderful.
Once a month, a musician who would do a workshop with the live audience.
Dance performances, we had contemporary jazz, we had different art forms.
Yeah, different musicians and
But having said that, the two performers, the Veena and the Shehnai and the vocal was fantastic. Wonderful artists that you got to record.
Exactly.
And of course about the film, Manish, and the filmmaker. It's just amazing. Thank you so very much. Someone had a question.
You had a question, ma'am.
I had a question. That, we've seen how the Pahari, the Dattani styles, they interact and do it. Now, Manish, you being from India and Murtaza being from Pakistan, did you see any evolution in styles? Was there any backwards and forwards that we find over here, or has that thing? Because, we were in Karachi 100 years ago, and there was a miniature painting that we got, and apparently Lahore is the only place that has a school for miniature art. Is that true? Do we have that in India?
No.
Or not?
No.
So what is taught in India, or what the people like you've gained this knowledge on your own? Am I correct in that? And with the give and take between Pakistan and India, if you could tell us something about it.
I mean, just after this project, there are like hundreds of invites on my Instagram from Pakistan. So I have like lots of fans in Pakistan, then from India.
Okay.
Now. So and talking about this, the growth of styles of the art, definitely it's a very interesting turbulence. Sometimes it goes down, sometimes it's really fine, and we have the luxury and liberty of these high-tech, like if you have seen in the film, I was just zooming things. Yeah. So to zoom anything, we have this luxury and liberty. So of course, if there's a painting of Nansuk at that time, he doesn't have that liberty.
Right.
I can take a picture of Nansuk's painting and then zoom it up and then go into the lines of that painting. Right. So definitely, if we try, we can go much ahead from what have already done.
Okay.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to have Manish and Murad together when we invited both of them, because Murad is trained academically, because there is a National College in Lahore, and he is trained in a family tradition. So they reached to the same point, but their processes, their journeys were different. And now we at the Museum Riedberg, we have also with GBF Foundation, we have started doing workshops, summer school workshop with these two painters as the leaders.
Together?
Yeah, together. And the participants are art historians, conservators, and practicing painters, limited audience and through invitation.
From India and Pakistan?
And all over the world, actually, all over the world. And those are, the conversations that we have with them, that they are both using the red color, but how they are using it, how they are making it. It's so interesting that both of them are arriving at the same point, but their processes have been different. So that's there for sure.
And what you pointed out is very important. There is an institutional training in Lahore, in the colleges, where this is taught to students whatever their family background is. Whether we have here a Guru Shishya Parampara situation. And this is very different, and that took these traditions into two different directions.
And also the subject matter of the miniature painting we bought in Karachi, it is, I'm sorry to be so blatant, the painting could be called Tits and Ass.
Yeah.
Because it's the girl is very flimsy and she's bearing a bum. Yeah. I have not seen any Indian miniature painting which is still more in the traditional style.
No, there have been everywhere. Yeah. They have been everywhere. Yeah. And people loved, our ancestors loved tits and bums. Let me tell you.
also, are miniature paintings only from India and Pakistan, or is it?
No, all over South Asia, entire South Asia. Because we were talking about Pakistan as of now, Pakistan, but it was part of one nation, right?
So
exactly.
Did it travel to?
No, it traveled from all over. I think the most explicit and most erotic paintings that are they're coming from Rajasthan. They're coming from Central India, and they're coming from Bengal, in fact. So it has been everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're still using the traditional materials?
Yes, both of them are, but in different ways.
No. Yeah. But it's the grinding.
Yes. All of it. They make their own pigments. They make their own brushes. They make their own paper.
Make sure to do it.
Yeah.
What he uses, for those who don't know, is squirrel.
Yeah.
Squirrel
hairbrush.
That lovely little curve.
Yeah, the squirrel tail. We saw that
for this Isa Nama also. We have took a reference from Hamza Nama style of painting. So I've prepared the canvas in exactly the same way those Hamza Nama
paintings were created
in 14th century.
Fantastic.
15th century. Pavitra.
Sorry, I want to ask Manish another question, please, if I may. Manish, just because, courtesy the Isa Nama project, I've had the
opportunity to sort of see you at work and also to some extent watch you in your process. I was very excited to see this work because I think as someone who's looking at the artist from the outside, it's astounding to me that you put yourself in the painting, in a self-portrait, because the Manish I know, through the 31 paintings of the Isa Nama, you always approached the painting with the eye of the painter. You were very clear that there was a subject and that you had that painterly distance, like the traditional court painters. I mean, that's the manner in which, the Padshah Nama would have been painted, or the Impi album, with the eye, that one step removed. But I think when I saw this, it was so exciting. I really think it's one of your finest works. Dying to see the original, because
and it's all yours.
No, it's not ours. Sadly, it's the Rietberg's. But
sorry.
But what I'm saying is, I think I would love to hear from you, because I think in your practice, that's a huge moment of departure, and you've put yourself front and center in this work, in a self-portrait where you are so recognizable as the artist. Tell me about that.
Great answer.
Yes.
Yeah, it's, I have to go back. Yeah. First of all, thank you, because wherever I am right now with this painting, it's just because of you and Paul. You have grown me from when I was doing this Isa Nama. I still remember the first painting which I did for Paul. He just asked me to do one painting. He never told me that I have to do the whole series. Only the one, the birth of Jesus. So, and if you just put that birth of Jesus, and if you put the 31st painting, you will definitely see the growth. And that growth is just because of the conversations between Paul, Pavitra, and they are always growing me, sharpening me. So, yeah, coming to this painting, the approach was completely different in my thought process, because Paul was telling me stories which I have to paint. So, while listening to, because everything is data. For a painter, everything is data. What is inside, you put it outside. So Paul was telling me stories about Jesus. Every time I come to him and we just spend time 2-3 days and then hear the stories. And this time, like I asked Paul that, Paul, do you think the Jesus is wearing shoes or chappals or what in this particular scene? So, I was creating data with continuous stories from the mouth of Paul. But here, the scenario is completely different. I was told to make Rag Megh, which I am only seeing through paintings. There is no physical or like hearing references for me at that time. So, and if you see the painting, that's all the journey is around whatever I have seen. From the very moment they commissioned me that you have to do the painting. From that moment, I was start noticing what is happening around me. And I tried to put everything as a journey around it. And then at the end, in the film also, I was telling that when you are jumbled so much, what you do is you just close your eyes and think. And when the first thought comes out, that you have to do. So that black thing is my closed eyes. And I've just seen myself making Rag Megh. So I put myself there. Yeah. So that was my thought process doing this.
It's an outstanding work.
Yeah.
It's a postmodern approach to miniatures.
I have two questions.
Yeah.
One is it dying art?
Thank you.
Is it a dying art? Miniature painting?
For me, no.
No, not for you. not for you. For us, for India.
No.
Are you teaching students? Are you parting your?
Yeah, definitely. If there's a serious student, I definitely invite him to my.
Do you have students here at your place?
Yeah, I have around 8-9 students around the world.
Nice.
Yeah.
You are from.
But unfortunately, no student from India.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what I was.
Yeah.
That is what my question is. Like about India.
Yeah.
Okay. So you are from Bhilwara, right?
Yeah.
I'm from Jaipur.
Oh.
So we are. Yeah.
In India, you have, if there was a certificate course on traditional painting, you have thousands of children whose parents send you.
No, unfortunately, like this is something inside me which I was sharing with one of my friend also the other day that what is next when you get so much praise for your paintings, then what is next step for an artist? That you have to pass it on to somebody.
Yeah, correct.
And I just wanted to have that particular person in my life which can take everything from me. So I'm just waiting for that moment.
But I must say that there are a lot of contemporary artists, not necessarily in the oeuvre of the traditional miniature, but very inspired by the miniature style, So if you look at it, a lot of artists, the Jethro Bucks of the world and the Gopal Trivedis of the world.
Heard of Basu ex-Basu?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good friend.
He's developing this thing and it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, so on what actually Paul was saying, for me, I recently worked on a conceptual project, like a conceptual art project, where we worked with miniatures. And I worked with a traditional Western classical painter from the JJ School of Art, from Kolhapur. And obviously, we don't know how to paint in miniature painting, but through observation, I worked with a guy who's, he's very, very proficient with being able to paint and, copy, look at things. And it's very interesting. And I was thinking about these collaborations, especially when I look at Pakistani painting and the Mayo School in Lahore. I see this kind of influence of Western classical painting being very, very present, because what came out of that collaboration, which is a very recent collaboration, we were able to build something that was, if visually it looks very traditional miniature painting, but obviously we are not at all earnest in the way you go about doing it, like making your own colors or, going through the process of remembering if you ate kachoris in the morning, etc. This is done in a more kind of, way that has been taught in the studio practice, even though miniature painting also has a studio practice. And so that was very interesting when I saw that, because I was like, I took some videos of you speaking to send it to those artists actually, because this is also for for a specific.
Yeah, it would be great if you could start a school. Because it's...
No, some years ago, we had him over at Xavier's doing workshops. Yeah.
But that's, a one-off, and that's thanks to you. But if anybody, wants to really study it, it's... When you do it, and then, as a normal visitor going through Rajasthan, you see this one, that one, the other one.
Yeah. It's also commercialized.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ask your grandfather.
Yeah.
Are you bringing the
Sorry?
Your grandfather, did he paint?
Oh, yeah, he was one of the great masters.
I think he was one of the last elite or thread.
Yeah. He was brilliant.
You guys are also brilliant.
Nothing compared to him.
Johannes, are you bringing this to India?
No, we had several talks with museums and colleagues. I doubt.
Why?
What the problem is. So what we could bring is the concept.
Yeah.
It's a curatorial concept and the practice how to do it. It doesn't make sense to bring our miniature paintings from the Riedberg to Mumbai or to Delhi. That makes absolutely no sense. So the concept, but so far we have not been able to raise really interest in the sense that we want to do that. So
yeah, it's all in the air. There were communications.
I doubt, to be honest, I doubt. And it's
4 months.
I have to say that it's not. Museums are, I think, afraid of getting into this journey because it's Ragamala. It's a niche. It's not. Museums want visitors and visitor numbers and so this.
Yeah,
so
what are you trying to say? Spell it out.
Yes.
No, we have had.
I think you should speak to a passionate, mad museum that does things for love and doesn't care about whether it's niche or not.
Of course.
That's her. That's her.
Yes.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.